He's singing.
He's only gonna get louder as this podcast goes on.
Right, we're finally doing a podcast, and it's called Off the Chart with Sherry Bell, and Noah and Jasmine are my first guests, and we're winging this because we have a lot to say. So Noah, tell us about, why you're here.
Came to Denver.
Mm-hmm.
Darn grateful to be here. This place, I usually have a vision and an intention, and pretty consistently exceeds expectations in a wonderful way. Lessons learned that I had no idea that I would learn about. I had 10 days only I've been here, but then a couple of days ago even, that does feel like we've changed a lot. A lot of growth in a short amount of time. Tends to happen everywhere I travel.
If you're a lifelong learner, then that will be forever.
Indeed.
So, do you want to share any of those transformational moments with us?
I guess the topic of the day, partially inspired by David Dita's book, Way to Superior Man, coming into understanding the relationship between the masculine and the feminine in a much deeper way is probably the biggest one on this trip, and having an opportunity to live it a little bit. Pretty single for a long time. I met Jasmine for a few days on Maui, but that was 8-9 months ago. And we've got to spend some time together, and yeah, I mean, our relationships, consistently, I learn over and over again everywhere I travel that our relationships are the most important thing in our lives, as vehicles for growth, as vehicles for inspiration and joy, and all things wonderful. And that includes, I use relationships very broadly, because they're not just relationships with friends or family or romantic partners. They are relationships with the planet, with ourselves, with our spirituality, everything that we can label. We have a whole big fat network of relationships with. And so learning about those dynamics and how to navigate them in a wiser way, I think, is one of the most important lessons I keep learning about.
Very well said. Can you speak to your kind of demographic, your age group? Balancing the masculine and feminine?
I feel like this would be a question for you with the feminine perspective more so. Is what are the greatest weaknesses right now? What do you think are the biggest problems specifically with how males are showing up in the world?
So, some of the biggest problems is the fact that we're all very disconnected. Men are a lot more anxious than they were before. It's a lot more difficult for them to approach women in the real world situations. They feel very uncomfortable and intimidated, and they also see women very differently nowadays because of the rise of social media, fame, and how everything is hypersexualized nowadays. It's really hard just to go up to a female and have like a normal conversation.
You heard hypersexualized. So is this cute?
There's my laugh. So that was a great answer, Jasmine. That's important because that's how you experience the world, right? Is with your peers. And because of the past couple years, everyone's been more so isolated. Mm-hmm. They've been impacted in ways that a lot of people don't talk about, and that will affect their social behavior. That it will also affect how relationships are formed right now.
Yeah.
So that's why I love The Way of the Superior Man, because it's all about your individual being and being balanced with physically, emotionally, spiritually, on both sides, the masculine side and the feminine side. It's not about taking your physical body and thinking that you need to do something with that physical body to alter it because you were given that body, is my philosophy. But no one's talking about David Dita, so thank you guys for talking about him.
You guys just showed me the book from day one that I got here. Mm-hmm.
So to me, that's the answer for humanity right now, is to read David Dita, The Way of the Superior Man. And it's not just man, it's really how to harness the power of masculinity and to appreciate and navigate the emotional turbulence of feminine energy, and to balance it which it's a huge effort and a huge mindset, and it doesn't happen in a day, right?
An ever going on journey.
It is.
I was thinking about that yesterday. It was like, it's kind of unfathomable to think that it'll ever be complete, to ever not have a whole bunch of stuff to work on, right?
Right.
But who knows?
No,
There's been Buddhas before. It's been Christ before, right?
Brought up a word. So Maharishi says karma is unfathomable. Can we say that again? No, Maharishi says karma is unfathomable. That's why we can't put a pin on it. We can't do anything. We just know, to me, it's like put good energy out into the world and show up and deal with the obstacles that come in the way. Coming back around to the problem with men, an opportunity, I feel like it's a weak spot. I'm always trying to find my weak spots. A weak spot I see with a lot of people my age specifically. I think it's the core element that all of your life and relationship should revolve around, and it's that purpose, and then having specific missions, tangible, measurable missions that align totally with that purpose. People don't know why they are waking up in the morning and why they would go and work a particular type of job to get some money or whatever. Like, the actions of day-to-day living are not aligned with some purpose, or they are, but that purpose is not clear. And
I feel like their purpose is met.
Clarity is one of the things that I try to cultivate the most, because when I'm clear on why I'm doing things, it is way easier to get motivated and align all my actions. And that's diet, exercise, the way I show up in relationships, my travel and adventure, absolutely everything that I do. Career choices, financial investments, right? And we've gone over that. People are curious about, why I'm doing what I'm doing. I'm just traveling around the world all the time for fun. So yeah, I wrote a website to kind of put that out there if somebody's legitimately curious. That website is out there.
What is it?
Not just for other people, so they can know what's going on. The website is holistic-synergistic.com. But it's also keeping me accountable. It's evolving, but I've got this purpose and I've got this vision that I'm aligning my actions. It is out there, and that's holding me accountable to make sure that I'm living aligned with that. Because if I'm not, I'm going to notice, people are going to notice, and that looks very weak. And I thrive on the challenges of that. Not having a vision, not having a purpose to align to, then everything is just unfocused, unclear. It's hard to be confident when you've got nothing to be confident in, right?
That's a great point.
And in the book, it talked about, that's a man's role, to be confident in his purpose and his mission as number one, that everything revolves around. And that gives space for the feminine to surrender into more trust and love. Deeper and deeper into trust and love, because that confidence, that foundation is there.
I feel like if a woman doesn't feel protected, then she can't focus on her mission as well as she could be. Like, you're constantly in survival mode. You're not protected.
Good point.
So,
a place in Boulder, and it was lunch hour, and this group of coworkers came together, and the gentleman said, "I'll get your kombucha drink." And she goes, "No, I don't need any man to get me a drink, to buy me a drink. I'll buy my own drink." But I just thought, it's just like, let's lean in and flow into allowing men to be men. And part of that, everyone shows up in their own way, the 5 love languages. But if that man wanted to buy her a drink, why not let her? Right? That's allowing him to be his masculine, purposeful.
Because when women are always in their masculinity, we become very hard, and we're not able to love fully and open up and be vulnerable, and we're harsh, and we're rude to other women too, and we're just trying so hard to just establish our dominance, and so.
Good point.
So as a man, I'm taking that, I feel responsible for that now, as the book goes into that. It's men having a very weak masculinity, and as compensation, the woman has to raise up and strengthen in her masculinity. And that throws a lot of things out of balance. And that changes the relationship dynamic. In my relationships, I would consider a very suboptimal way. You've got two roles to play, and they're better if you play those roles instead of being totally balanced in feminine and masculine, because that tends to be pretty high on the conflict levels and low on the passion and surrendering into love levels.
I love that, surrendering into love levels.
Yeah, and I've experienced that in one of my relationships. I was with a man for a year, and I felt like I had to be more masculine. I was forced into that role. It made me resent him. That's what it causes, a lot of resentfulness. It was not a good relationship dynamic, and I was never able to fully surrender and be in my divine feminine. And I was always harsh, and I just got resentful.
And how would you act differently now?
Now, I would be sure that when I decide to be with someone, that our relationship dynamic and our energies are perfectly aligned for each other, and that we only help each other grow and become one. We're able to accelerate in each other's purpose and mission. And we have like the same kind of purpose and mission, so that we can create that together.
Creating a podcast can be a daunting goal. Time is ticking. Stories are waiting to be told. Is AI listening in? Anchor by Spotify. The definition of user-friendly. The only place where a time-encapsulated conversation becomes a forever human connection.
Like paths in life, it's either you are creating you're becoming self-made. That's been my purpose, which is you're just self-sufficient versus going to work for someone else.
Started swinging the other way into the idea of asking to give, asking to serve others. And when I am preparing to give as much as I can is when I receive all the help that I could ask for. And the self-sufficient, independent, financially independent and all that, I feel like it's an incomplete truth to strive. As I said, we got relationships everywhere with everything, and I want to cultivate those relationships as best I can. And I know I am everything about my growth. My sustenance of my body is completely dependent on the huge team, from sunlight to thousands of people to thousands of mechanics, roads, and it's a global network of a phenomenal scale and way beyond. And all of that is the team. And when I help the team as much, and the team definitely supports me as much as I can. So I've stepped away from the whole. You should be independent enough to show up in the world without needing to be attached to someone in particular. Intimately connected with the whole team.
I love that. And so I this is why a lot of times I don't share, but my foundational values are always team-based. Rocky are always team-based. And when I say self-sufficient, I mean as far as self-sufficient from relying on anybody else's control, as far as we're creating our own family business. And that's like what you mentioned as a whole, right? So being independent is more being independent from the man or the machine, isn't my reference. And being independent, creating a family business like Ted and Tal, that is what I mean by self-sufficient, independent. It's not independent from me, it's feeling free.
That's what it's
being
about.
Free.
If you don't feel free in your corporate job, and you feel like a slave, and they are disrespectful to you, and they treat you like you're just replaceable, you can't even walk outside for a little bit of sunlight without having people come and peek around the corner and be like, what are you doing? You're not allowed to take a little 2-minute break. Then that's where you gotta draw the line. You wanna serve your community, and it feels so great to be of service. It's one of the best feelings. It feels like your purpose is met in a way. But once you don't feel free, then that's when you gotta realize, okay, I kind of gotta get out of this situation.
And what specifically was your situation? Because you're talking about working for someone.
Yeah, so most restaurant jobs that I've had where I was a prep cook, a line cook, I just gave it up my all, and I showed up, but I still wasn't appreciated, and I was still treated replaceable. And I didn't feel free. I felt trapped, and like I was just waiting for the clock to pass by so I could get off the shift. And I would feel really great at times, like I was being of service and I was feeding hundreds of mouths, and people were enjoying my food, and that felt so great to me. I realized, this is not the way a family business where I opened up a food truck or something with my family, that's more like it. It's all about the intention and the energy behind the food.
Mm-hmm. That's cool. That's a great segue into something. Since Noah arrived, I was inspired to make my raw food again. So this is Jasmine's birthday cake, all raw. Move into lifestyle and specifically raw vegan lifestyle, and how that makes you live your best life more so than eating non-raw vegan food.
Right, you got a lot more experience than that with me. I only do raw for a few days at a time. I personally, I'm the way I understand it is that food raw can, it's great. It has lots of live enzymes and whatnot. There's certain nutrients that are way more present and absorbable in the body uncooked, right? But also there's some anti-nutrients and whatnot that are only accessible. There's a lot that is only unlocked through the process of cooking, heat and oil or whatever. And so I'm like, take both. So I like to eat lots of raw and lots of cooked food because I feel like that is the most holistic way to soak in everything I can from the foods in a way that is most digestible. But I'm always experimenting.
But you're vegetarian.
I'm vegetarian,
right? You
but
don't eat meat.
I've been 100% vegetarian since about 7 years old.
Oh, wow. No, that's a great point.
I eat eggs.
Right,
Lots of
that
eggs.
Means you're vegetarian.
Lots
so
of
vegetarian means that you eat eggs and dairy, which is sheep milk, goat cheese. And how has that affected your life?
Vegetarian?
Staying vegetarian.
What have you noticed the most?
I guess I'm a good case study for misinformation. Because not so much now, vegetarianism has been kind of in the popular spotlight for a while, but just a few years ago there was a huge cultural belief that you can't build muscle as a vegetarian, you'll waste away, and this whole body has been rebuilt a couple of times according to the 7-year cell regeneration theory, completely vegetarian. And my family, and obviously I'm not lacking muscle or endurance or strength or anything. There's lots of documentaries, like the Game Changers documentary now. If you haven't seen it, it's a very pro-vegetarian documentary.
Is it on Netflix?
Yeah, it goes into sexual health sciences, endurance being increased, Olympic athletes just way exceeding their expectations with the vegetarian diet.
That's cool. Jasmine's dad was a international pro soccer player, so we experimented with a lot of different diets throughout his professional career. And toward the end, he ended up through a kinesiologist in Dallas, figured out his best pre-game meal was meat, which was steak. Free-range steak and avocado, so protein and fat before the game. But other than that, he was mostly vegetarian and excelled in that. But for me personally, I guess this was 20 years ago. I was raw. That means for 6 months, I did not even eat any salad dressing at a restaurant. no, sorry. Yeah, 6 months. And your social life changes, and there's a lot of changes that, change with the way that you eat, and I'm very social. But I was the thinnest I've ever been, and just the most vibrant and lit up, I guess. To me, life is about, being lit up and what makes you happy. And eating vegan raw makes me feel lighter and brighter.
That's a good side. I was like feeling into what the body and the mind and the spirit is saying to follow what choices to make, right? Because there's, after being so into nutrition for so long, I really don't take it. I take it very seriously, but I don't take the information out there seriously, because there's a lot of it that is crap. Like, just it's full of it's all incomplete. Every single piece of information nutritionally I've seen is
exactly
very incomplete.
Exactly right.
Nobody ever can see the whole picture. It's my intention that that we go as holistic and synergistic as possible, but obviously I don't have the mental capacities to be completely holistic and synergistic right now. I try my best.
It's like you said, you have goals and you have purpose, and it's always, important to lighten up. And here's my big life lesson is, like your dad, Jasmine, said, don't ever let anybody label us. Like, he didn't like to be a part of a religion or a certain group, because then you have this label and identity around you.
Identification does not help us.
And so I just took, I gained intelligence, awareness, adventure, and all kinds of stuff from each group that I was a part of, whether it was Unity Church as the youth family minister, helping Jasmine, navigate her path up to spirituality when she was 3 to 10. But whether you're a Waldorf parent or a pro soccer wife, but I just kind of took the benefits out of each of those groups and didn't totally embed myself in them. My realization was that I just like people. I don't care what religion they are, what political group they are. I like people, and that to me is number one. And it goes back to what you were saying about relationships. So out of all the TED Talks, to be the healthiest and the most vital and for longevity is to have long-term relationships.
High quality relationships.
Yeah. So for me, I have friends of 44 years. I have friends since 3rd grade. And yes, I am older. That's my joy in life. For you guys to be here, that was joyful for me. It could be annoying sometimes. Community is important to me.
Even the challenges in our relationships, I feel are gifts. I definitely feel more clear after a challenge, and I'm willing to pay the price of a bit of pain for the gift of a challenge and the consequent clarity and behavior changes. And it can be tough to see the dark spots. We all tend to have blind spots, some of them pretty darn huge. Relationships, especially after a while, seems like it's natural that relationships help us find our blind spots. Other people help us find our dark spots, our blind spots. That is a great gift, as tough as it is sometimes to go through.
I love talking to you, Noah and Jasmine. You bring up excellent points. Here's the crux of relationship. You're enlightened to actually look at the negative or the obstacle or the opportunity.
Still be grateful.
What am I learning from this? So this is years of navigating, and this is when I remember to ask this question, I always get an answer. So what is my gift in this? And then you wait and you listen and you don't try to figure it out. And it usually shows up less than 12. And it shows up in amazing ways, like, oh my God, who am I talking to? Wow. Talking to God, talking to my future self.
Insight, so valuable here.
So here's the other thing about relationships. Here's how I feel, is that we all have patterns, and we're just here to break through those patterns and to design a new life, a new blueprint, like you're talking about. I feel like we all have negative attributes that we we don't even know we have. And that when we're in a relationship, everything's a honeymoon in the beginning. And then we start identifying something that bothers us, something that makes us feel uncomfortable. And then we spend, instead of spending 2% of our time focused on that, we spend 97% of our time in our mind focused on the 2% that we don't like about that person. And then that's why relationships dissolve. And I feel like the future of humanity is really in turmoil, and Elon Musk talked about this since 1971. Our civilization, we're on the way to extinction, basically. What's happening now with relationships is that you've got specific entities that are trying to break up the traditional family as well.
Yeah.
So people are having less and less kids, various other reasons. If you think about big picture for the future, it's like, who do you want around you at the end of your life? Do you want a family?
Do you want to be alone?
Do you want people? Do you want to be alone?
A lot of strength in family.
So one of the biggest secondary conditions of lockdown and all that is isolation. And so people feel very isolated. I know I was at the pool. I met a lady and her family, and she had 3 of her older kids with her. They all went in the pool together. They all got out, and they were just like this one cohesive unit moving around. And I went over to him. I started talking to him, and there's this 21-year-old man. He's like, I was telling them about our conversation at home and how we'd like to have people around and start a club, and he's like, my son and I are having that exact same conversation. So I know it's an important conversation to bring up. As the 20-something-year-olds, they feel kind of isolated, and there's less and less in-person involvement. We have to create our own community and involvement and engagement, especially after what we've been going through the past couple years. We need to re-enliven connection and face-to-face. And he specifically is like, I want to be around people.
Not a computer screen, eh?
Not a computer screen, exactly. Good point.
Yeah, and if you take away social media, you just imagine how many people would be more focused on building like relationships and building a family and
eating the rubber chicken.
Yeah.
You think it looks like food, but it's not.
It's not. Yeah, it's not. It's having a bunch of fans is not love. Having a bunch of followers is not love. It's more isolation, and usually those people who have all of the followers feel the most isolated, and they don't have friends really. Yeah. They don't have a good circle, and
so this is making me very like teary-eyed. I got my best asset, my legs. No, I don't want it. I don't want it on me. I don't even have makeup on. I don't have makeup on. I have a journal on Amazon, but it's to inspire people to understand that they are genius. They have a genius within. It's an untapped genius. And if Albert Einstein says we only use 10% of our brains, what is the other 90%? So in 1992, I went on this quest to figure out what the other 90% of my brain was. And what my potential was. And 30 years later, I do see the blueprint, and we're making that happen. I am. And with everyone's help. But number 1 is know you have a genius and tap into the genius. Number 2, revolution is the root word is revolve. And so you're going to always reinvent yourself. And when you join with other people, start a revolution. There's a lot of intelligent, street smart, science smart. The truth is coming out. Everyone needs to kind of get on the bandwagon and focus on yourself, like Noah was talking about, and put yourself first in your personal and spiritual development, and get off the TV. So I was getting emotional because I raised Jasmine without TV, so she's very creative. But it was a problem in 7th grade when she didn't have an iPhone, when social media started, which is the purpose of this, and which, you know, it's caused all kinds of problems. But also with all of these people in the talent industry, they say, what are your followers? How many people do you have to influence if we partner with you? And that's something that's always bothered me, because I know that the creativity, the songs, the music, the poems, the lyrics, that there is high value in that.
You're looking for the marketable audience.
There's high value in that, and it's not just about how many followers you have. A lot of them are purchased. Now we know since Elon was going to buy Twitter, there's probably 25% bots. That's not a specific percentage quote, but basically you have all these people spending all this time on social media and their phone, and they're actually interacting with AI. Oh my God.
We are.
So, right, what's the point? So the alternative...
You can't tell if between a person and an AI. You know you're using the wrong medium for communication.
So anyway, so the alternative to that is really what these guys have been doing. They've been in the studio making music, and it's been a joy to watch people, two people collaborate. It's pretty cool. And I feel like more and more people could do that, whether they gather in a park or at someone's house, but just get together and make music.
Making drum circles. I want more drum circles in parks. Little acro yoga sessions.
Yeah.
It's acro yoga was a past just Sunday activity for me in Australia, and that was one of my favorite. Just hanging out in a park with a bunch of people that I guess it attracts the people that love exercise and healthy development as well. But one thing that social media never does is I'm talking about the physical needs, and after water and air and sleep and food, there's also touch. It's a physical need that is very therapeutic for us. Acro yoga is a fun way because you're touching each other, but it's not sexual. It's a fun exercise, and you're working in a yoga together, balancing, working with 2 or more people, right? In these kind of vulnerable positions, right? If you're upside down, if you're doing a handstand on top of someone, so you are supporting and being supported in a very elegant. It's a great kind of obviously a physical reflection of the mental and the spiritual in that position, right? So, yeah, highly recommend acro yoga. If you've got no idea what I'm talking about, find a video or something for some inspiration. There's obviously some simple moves. You don't have to be doing a handstand on top of 2 people straight away, but it's a beautiful, and making music, getting together with a bunch of drums or kirtan sessions or whatnot, and just getting in the groove with a bunch of people. So we don't need to be talking to people all the time to connect on a really deep level.
Yeah,
I like that.
Okay.
Connection in silence can hit depths that words cannot.
I love that. Noah. I know I don't like to talk much, and some people are very uncomfortable with silence.
And I think that's something to work on fast.
and I have to say I've lost friends because I have listened to their same story for years, and I'm like, I cannot listen to their same story again. Now, it's like, okay, what am I saying? What's my story? I'm repeating. It's always going back to yourself. Ho'oponopono. But when you offer solutions and, try to help someone, and then you're also looking at how you can, change your behavior, but listening to people's story run over and over is it's time consuming and energy draining. And one of my favorite, which is our next topic, is saints. I want to talk about what your favorite saint is, or your favorite guru, or whatever you want to say, master, is, I think Gangaji, said, drop your story. So if people just take this, drop your story. Are you talking about your past, or just drop your story and just drop your story and be different and just be here now. Ram Dass.
Be here now.
Which are just words, and to act present and be present is a whole different game. But so saints, I've seen a lot of saints, and I love Amma, and I love a lot of different people, but I've gained something from each one. But what is yours, Noah? What is your favorite?
I like the perspective of the guru is everywhere. The guru is within. The guru is in every person we meet, in every experience, every sensation. And whether we are particularly devoted to a specific individualization, like Ram does, or some Maharishi or whatever, but the guru is everywhere, and they're all wanting to help. They're all wanting to brighten with a little bit of truth, and it's up to us to integrate it. And sure, I've read hundreds of books in the last couple of years that have served me very, very well, and they're incomplete, so you mind the diamonds that are most important right then and there. If you read it again in another year or a few months, there'll be different things that stand out, different lessons, because you've changed. The things that you notice changes as you change, so you can read the same book 4 times and see completely different things, but guru is everywhere, so I think that's more important than a specific name. While I can't label the thousands and thousands of people that have helped me, that have lived long, thousands of years ago or today, because sometimes just sitting down with a really good meal is a very helpful, enlightening experience, just being present with that meal. But if I'll mention one right now, it's kind of, I guess, the lesson that I've been working with and recognizing lately for the last few months is from a David White book. I forget which book. I think it was Consolations. He said maturity. His word was maturity that he was talking on, and maturity is the integration of past, present, and future. So after hearing that, for a couple of years, I've been fervently working at the be here now idea, or not the idea, but the actual being of it, right? And I'm recognizing that being present is integrating the whole history that we know, and taking into consideration the whole future potentiality. And to be present does involve sometimes budgeting for your future financials, and acknowledging the history that has created some of our patterns, and healthy or unhealthy patterns, triggers, whatever's going on. We're obviously, the past isn't all illusion that doesn't matter, right? It still shapes our experience. It shapes our presence in a huge way, as does our ideas of the future. And so being present is much more than being here now with a cup of tea, as zen as that is. It encompasses a lot more than the pinpoint present, I suppose. Pinpoint present is where everything's pulling in.
I love it.
And so the guru, while you may find it in a book, in a person, in a friend, in a meal, it's in the presence. It's in presence wherever you are.
I just like taking experiences from each different saint or teacher, or whatever you want to call it. And Amma, a lot of people don't know this, but Jasmine was in my belly when she got a hug from Amma, and Amma is the hugging saint. And she travels around the world, but in Dallas, we were one of a couple hundred people maybe, and then every June she came to Dallas. And we went, and that's where I learned or got to experience kirtan and Indian music. And then she spoke, and there were retail products which came from all over the world, which was kind of cool. But it was like you walked into this room, this ballroom, this hotel ballroom, where the light was just buzzing. And that was it became timeless, like a timeless experience, and which anchored that experience in me. So when I have timeless moments, you know, more and more, then they've made a deeper and deeper impression. And so you can kind of hold on to that or embrace that or be that, you know. But anyway, so we saw her every year. I think we saw her 10 years, and I went to her ashram in California just because I met someone on the plane, and they're like, oh, Amma's ashram is right around the corner. I'm like, oh, really? And she's having a session tonight, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm going to go. But it's just kind of swimming in that sea of bliss and zen, and I don't know. That's what I took from that experience with her. So
The hugging saint.
The hugging saint. In the news. And then Homestead Bound. But in the news, I know we don't watch the news. I haven't watched the mainstream news for 30 years. It's just amazing to me that people have been their brains have been dominated by watching that for 30 years. But I like to keep my pulse. At one time at a party, I had, you know, people knew that we didn't watch TV, and they kind of poo-pooed it. This was before the internet. They're like, how do you know what's going on in the world? And I took that as, I kind of do need to know what's going on in the world, and I should pay attention more. You know, because we chose not to watch TV, because if you're watching the news and they leave out 5% of the truth, that would sway your decision or your brain or your feeling about that topic, then why in the world should I spend my time watching the news when 90% of it could be true? But they left out the part that could change your position on something.
Even if it is true, which is...
Huh?
It's a hard idea to swallow that it's actually true and that we perceive it as accurately, but... Like, is it relevant to your life, to your actions, to hear about some traumatic event very far away? Is it serving any of us positively to know about awful things all the time?
All the time. Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Like, it's not inspiring.
Mm-mm.
It
No.
doesn't inspire a great idea.
Yeah.
It may bias us to feel very anxious.
Yes.
Unnecessarily.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So I feel like it doesn't, just exposing myself to really awful things, fictional or non-fictional, I just don't feel like it's helpful. It's not to my purpose. Maybe it is to some. I know that true crime documentaries podcasts are super popular right now, and I've got no clue why.
So
it's not my flavor.
So Netflix, I think this was before COVID, but Netflix, their number one show for that year, could have been 2020, could have been 2019, was true crime. It was some crime show. But my friend Cindy in Parker, Colorado, she listens to crime nonstop. I'm like going, oh, wow, this is so interesting. But what, you know, how it's like, so another teacher says everyone is having fun in their own way. I think it was Maharishi Mahesh Yogi. Everyone is having fun in their own way. That's a lot to grok for people. Especially with all the weirdness that's going on in the world. Everyone's having fun in their own way. Bite on that one for a little while.
For another time.
So with Cindy, as far as crime, it's almost like it creates part of their brain to think differently and to turn on their investigative mode brain. I saw that in her, because I always try to find the positive out of every
Confidence, a security, knowing that
security.
you know, you may still be dependent on the weather. You're not dependent on the economical system of a nation or whatnot.
Exactly.
For your daily sustenance.
Yes. So that was our purpose, was also to create self-sufficient kind of revenue. So we were going to grow elderberry. We were going to have a spa retreat and have Airbnb, because I'm an Airbnb superhost when I have a room open. But part of that was just to create this whole like bubble of fun people coming in. They get to experience Mother Nature and, you know, have spiritual experiences experience to eat yummy food and really kind of be more inspired to be less dependent on the man. Does that make sense?
What do you mean by the man? Just for
so
clarity's
the man
sake.
is the machine. You got corporations
The man.
that control the man.
Why is it called the man?
I know people do, but I always love that. I love the man. But I don't know why that's a great way to end this podcast, which we've been winging now for 55 minutes. But I really do appreciate you guys doing this. You too. Noah, thank you for taking the time. Yeah, I really like how you articulate your thoughts and feelings.
Well, I appreciate you guys a lot. Full of generosity and presence. Both. Thank you for holding the space here and inviting me to learn and love with you in your home here in Colorado. This trip, this season, this chapter, little 10-day chapter is coming to an end today, but the lessons go on with us forever. So thank you. Big cuddle puddle.
Designing Men 101. While everyone else is yapping about the problem, we've actually activated a solution. Architecting Turbo Transformation, where values, vitality, and victory are a real life reality. Only at iCare-Concierge.